Hello, welcome to Kusile Breakfast Show. It is a beautiful Friday, the 19th of May, Lungalele. Very cold morning. Also projected to be a cold day. I think the temperatures are supposed to rise to what, 16 today?
16, 17 in
Sivuka
Mbabane.
11 yalo ekuseni. Makhada kakhulu eMbabane sithembe ukuthi kuletinye izigodzi delive bafuthumele bantu ngeke ukuthi nje abantu bayafuthumala vele njengoba busika sebuvele bucalile labanema fireplace bawabasa labanema gown bawathenge nanawe ke lona morning shoes sethembe uyawagcoka abantu besilisa ke bakhutiwe ke ku social media lungelele ukuthi singagcoke ama sharp point endlini sigcoke nemajezi ebhola linyala ebusika sithenge ama gown nema pajama akululati ibudvodza bethu loko sikunemikhuhlane ke lekhona nalapho nje kudasisekela. Very good morning, Lulu. How are you?
Good morning, Sfisa. I'm well, and how are you?
Doing very well. Sesingila makhada njengoba ngikhala ngawo.
Yes, sithemba ukuthi nani babukela emakhaya niphilile namhla ekseni nesithemba nje ukuthi nikhonile ukuthatha umoya itolo njengoba bekuluholide bekuyinkonzo nje lenkhulu lebechubeka khona lapha eMbangwa njengoba Jesu bekabuyela khona ezulwini. Good morning and welcome to the show. Sithemba siniva kahle namhla ekseni. Nivuselako nguyelungelele Magagula njengoba kungilesihlanu nje namhla sitabe sikhulumisana nemphathi wenkampani Junior Achievement. Sitakubona ke Junior Achievement ukuthi inkampani lena lecile kakhulu etindzabeni tebamflabasha ekakhulu kade nje tindzaba tekubafundzisa ngato temabhizinisi kuthi nje emavikini lambalwa lendlulile lenkampani yasukumisa umsebenzi lebotwa ngokuthi youth business shower lapho khona abamflabasha batawukhona kusekelwa ngetimali bakhone kusungula emabhizinisi abo. Simbonile ke na hulumende wase Taiwan afaka imali kanjalo nenkampani Fincorp afaka imali kulomsebenzi imali lenga nga 400,000 letawusita bona abamflabasha ukuthi basungule lamabhizinisi. Sitabe sikhulumisana na executive director Phethile Masilela ukuva kabanti ukuthi ngabe vele mhlambe athini mhlambe ema requirements kanye enema repayment terms ayo awo lomsebenzi lona. Sitabe simbuza ukuthi ngabe vele mhlambe bafuna ukuthola abamflabasha laba kanjani lasaba vele banawo amabhizinisi noma mhlambe labo labatawacala kabusha emabhizinisi abo. So sitabe sikhulumisana nomhlexeni at 6:30.
Yeah, we will be joined by Fabrice Msonera, our in-house sports journalist / analyst. Fabrice Msonera, who always gives us insights in Zabeni, Tetemidlalo. A lot is happening in the world of football with the UEFA Champions League. We just saw Manchester City dismantling Real Madrid by a score of 4-0 at the Etihad Stadium. They've booked themselves a place in the finals versus Inter Milan, which will take place mhla June 10. UEFA Champions League. Who will take it home? We don't know. June 10. But I'm still putting my money on Manchester City. Just saw them displaying a stellar performance against defending champions UEFA Real Madrid, which by the way has been they've had a long streak, and it was the first UEFA Champions League for Pep Guardiola as a Manchester City coach, which is a great achievement for them. Game babonile nje uma ba celebrate bekungathi ba celebrate ngathi vele sebayiwinile yona le UEFA Champions League, but nje sisayibukela yona ifinal emhla June 10. Before sifike kuyo leyo final, Fabrice will join us today to discuss the game, all the goals leswabonile from Bernardo Silva and Eder Milito's own goal after halftime, the late fourth from a substitute yakhe Julian Alvarez. Kanzike sitawuphinde sikhulumise nendzaba yeNewcastle letreshe iBrighton elangela itolo 4-1 yaseke Securishela Sport ku top 4 ye-English Premier League lokusho ukuthi itawukhompitha ku-UEFA Champions League yeminyaka lotako. Sitawuchubeka nato temidlalo naletinye naye Fabrice Msonera nakasijoyina uma kugabanca insimbi yesikhombisa lomuhla kungayinzawo.
Alright, singu 3 minutes after 6 asibahlela temakethe esibuye netindzaba desiswatini.
Why should we pay our TV license?
The content on our local television is actually more up to date. The industry is enhanced.
It is a criminal offense not to pay your TV license and attracts a fine of 500 emalangeni or 6 months imprisonment.
And the industry is definitely blooming, ladies and gentlemen. So that's what we have for you. But we'll be right back just after the break and we'll give you more of Miss V.
Pay my TV license. That's why I can enjoy the benefits of an enhanced industry and keep track with recent transformation.
Mommy, who paid for a TV license and what are they paying for?
The owners of TV set and a gadget with a tuner like DVD set have to pay.
Pay your TV license at NetBank with the details provided on screen. Or use your cell phone via the mobile money pay. You could also visit your nearest post office and pay there. Pay your TV license via Eswatini Mobile Imali. Any TV device retailer can purchase a license to trade. Pay your TV license and enhance the industry.
Isithupha imizuzu lephelile soloku ubumbene insimbi yesithupha lomhla ekuseni ake sibuke indaba lapha ekhaya. Silo inkosi Mswati wesithathu sithi uNkulunkulu uyawathanza eMaswati kungakho kumcoka ukuthi athi ukuthi afunani aphinze athi namoya longcwele ukuthi usho ukuthini kumakholwa. Lokho kuvetwe ngumfana inkosi Mguciso enkonzweni yelwenyuko esigodlweni embangweni ngesikhathi amelele emakhosi.
Dinkulungwane temakholwa tihlanganyele esigodlweni embangweni esifundzeni saseshiselweni enkonzweni yokwenyuka kwenkosi Jesu Kristu. Leli lilanga lekukhumbula ukwenyuka kwaJesu Kristu aye ezulwini. Emakhosi abekade amelelwe ngumfana inkosi Mguciso kulenkonzo. Kanti lenkonzo bekade ingenelwe nangemakhosikazi kanye nesigodlo. Leli langa leli lemashumi lamane esikhathini sephasika. eMaswati ahlale ahlangana kulenkonzo njalo ngeminyaka njengoba nalonyaka emakhosi atibusisile letinkonzo. Lokhu kungenxa yokuthi live leSwatini limbeka embili simakatse. Silo inkosi Mswati wesithathu sithi eMaswati kumele aconze ukuthi umoya longcwele usho ukuthini kumakholwa. Lokhu kuvetwe kumfana inkosi Mguciso ngesikhathi amelele imbube emhlaba kulenkonzo.
Ngizathi buda ke nibe kunena ukuthi ingabe lo moya ngcwele siyama understanding ukuthi uyini usho ukuthini ngoba ngazi ukuthi la emhlabeni noma ngazi ukuthi siyathi nje usikhona uNkulunkulu kodwa lo moya ngcwele ukuthi usho ukuthini kithi thina sithi siyakholwa ngithi ke bathandekayo mhlawumbe nganye langa yayithola answer ikhona le indoda la ke yakhuluma nganye langa yathi yabekisa nje bonke sathi eMaswati asakahamba ufuna unyawo lwaJesu. Lo mbuzo uthi ngangisengumntwana ngingayiconzi lento but unamhla ngiyabona ngoba namhla nomuntu umuntu uyamtshela ukuthi hayi ungathi ayihambi kahle endlela yakho athi umuntu uyamehlulela bese uyadibuda ukuthi uze lo muntu umbonise ukuthi le ndlela yakho lohamba ngayo isebumnyangweni utambonisa umthini ngisho ukuthi nebe kunene nawo nje lokho kungihlupha empilweni yami ukuthi bazalwane ingonyama iyasithanza enaNkulunkulu uyasithanza kepha sesifuna nemva kwalokho.
Umbhekeli webukhosi umfana inkosi Simelane ukhutsate emabandla ukuthi amemetele indzaba yokuthi bantu babidwe encwadzini yekuphila.
Lama sonfeni muva nje sekutekwathi indzaba temphumelelo. Buya ngakimi utawuthola umshado buya ngakimi utawuthola umsebenzi buya ngakimi mina ngihamba ngokhipha tipoko wabethelwa phansi wena hey akuyomenyethelwa indzaba kwekuthi emagama abantu aloshiwe yini encwadzini yekuphila
Iyakhanya kodwa isala lemini kodwa isala lemini kodwa abantu abakhoni ukuthi basondele batofundiseka ngemithetho waNkulunkulu. Lithi iBhayibheli bathi nasebamjikile bakabathi ufile lefika libandla lithi iBhayibheli lema lathi kwalesoshi laseliyahlabelela lathi lahlabelela lamandla abenawo Pawula esuka kulabazalwane basayahlangana kwasuka emandla ayemandleni
nathi thina lesigezwe tono tethu saba bafunzi bakhe ngelilanga lelimisiwe nguNkulunkulu siyawukwenyuswa.
Khumbula Eliya nakafuna sibusiso Elisha izwi lenkosi lithi bahamba bengce ngemadolobha egcineni bewela umfuli Jordan wasuthi cela kimi nakulokufunako
athi mayesidala uNkulunkulu kuGenesis chapter 1 uthi masenze umuntu ngomfanekiso wami wayenza indoda wamenza umfazi wabaphefumulela umoya oyingcwele kukule ndawo lapha abahleli khona njengokuba uYesu ubebadalile.
And those who hate us,
those
who call us names,
those
who push us down, they will have to give account.
Sibonga umsebenzi wakho ngoba labanengi Nkosi khonethu kwemhlaba indombi yakhe ingaba nje uyayala uNkulunkulu onamandla yonke khona labameme bantwana nyalo labathe boyise laba baphikako nje kodwa babathi ukuthi baba sibonga lama Joseph ungamlahli umkakho.
Bafundisi ke bafundzela ivi baphindze bashumayela. Bafundisi labashumayele bafaya ekhathi umbishop Vusumuzi Mnisi, umfundisi Mabandla Zikalala, umfundisi Petros Khumalo, Make Mary Dlamini, mengameli Zweli Mbambo kanye na Bright Mila. Etindzabeni kubika Pholile Maziya esigodlweni ambangweni.
Libhange le-Eswatini Bank selisekele umcimbi we-MTN iPraise Festival yalonyaka ngemali lengu-250,000 emalangeni. Umphathi welibhange le-Eswatini Bank Nozizwe Mlela uthi bafise kubona likhono letemculo likhula kuleli. Lo mcimbi bewubanjelwe eSummerfield kanti bewungenelwe nayindvuna yetemasiko nebantfu labasha Harris Bulunga.
Ikhuluma kulo mcimbi wekusukumisa sigaba sesine semcimbi we-MTN iPraise Gospel Festival indvuna yetemasiko nabantu labasha Harris Bulunga ithe bahlabeleli labanengi kulo mcimbi Maswati latsinga kusekelwa ngayo yonke indlela ngoba atiphilisa ngemakhono awo.
This event, Madam MD, brings together hundreds of Maswati and gospel music lovers from across the borders and presents an opportunity for our local upcoming and established gospel artists to showcase their talents alongside international acts.
Umcondzisi welibhange le-Eswatini Bank Nozizwe Mulela uthe balibhange batawasekela emakhono eMaswati wathi lo mcimbi uyakhula kuleli nangaphandle.
It pleases us, therefore, as Eswatini Bank, to partner and sponsor the MTN iPraise Gospel Music Festival 2023 with 250,000 emalangeni.
Lo mcimbi ke utawubanjwa mhla ka-29 enyangeni yakholwane kule minyaka eMavuzo Sports Center. Kubika Kiyane Msibingi nasimuva shongwe sise-Summerfield Botanical Gardens.
Indleba yesikhulu seyemukele imigomo yekusebenta kwemthetho lobuke kuthuthukisa imimango i-Community Development Special Fund. Lo mbiko wale migomo wetfulwe endlini ilunga lePhalamende lenkhundla kalobamba lomdzala Mawiki Khumalo.
Kulandzela ukuthi iPhalamende yelive iphasise umthetho lotawubuka kwakhiwa kwesikhwama sekutfutfukisa imimango, i-Community Development Special Fund lesibuko liphiko lwaka micro projects, sihlalo welikomiti lelibuke kusebenta kwelitiko letemafa khona endlini yabaye school Mawik Khumalo, ucele indlu ukuthi idzingidze yemukele iphindze iphasise imigomo yekusebenta kwalomthetho phecelezi regulations. Lo sihlalo wesekelwe ilunga lePhalamende lenkundla yaseMpolonjeni Jacob Siwela kulesishukumiso lapho benabe khona ngebumgcoka balomthetho.
Nakusi lo mthetho unesikhathi imcondzisi wagcina kubuyekedo lo mthetho waka micro projects. Le approval committee bokhanza ukuthi iqhubeke labo PS noma ama representatives abo. Kusuka lena ukhanza usencenye belila kubo 9. Basibohlonishwa cha. Abekisa uma ngabe iproject yeLDP kufuneka kuyakwa lidam lokudibhisa tingoma. Agriculture kufuna bekhona lapho kule technical committee. Bese kuba khona na regional planning officer waleyo region abekhona. Phinze futhi nemthuthukisi. Tonzwe tinkulumo welitiko letinkundla. Mthuthukisi lophethe abathuthukisi lokusuka nge-community development office abekhona kule project noma i-representative lwelitiko letinkundla kude lapho lisala khona tinkundla Mr Speaker.
Ekube nemalunga ashukumise ukuthi umcondzisi wezinkulumo ePhalamende Petros Mavimbela akucise ukuthi ngidlwa kwalombiko ngale migomo litiko lihambe liyosebenza indlu yabaye esikhulu bese yemukela iphasa lemigomo ye-Community Development Special Fund. Etindzabeni Eswatini TV kubika samkeliswe khoza ngasikhumbuzo Dlamini ePhalamende.
Nemigomo lemisha lebuke kusebenta kwemthetho wetekundiza eveni Civil Aviation Act livelta ukhona ukuthuthukisa netikhumulo tetindiza tibambe emazinga emhlaba kwengeteke nabo chwephesha kutekundiza. Lokhu kuvetwe ngusihlalo welikomiti lelibuke kusebenta kwelitiko letemsebenzi lemikhulu nekutfutsa endlini yabaye esikhulu Sandla Fakutse ngesikhathi yetfula lemigomo.
Ekubeni iPhalamende yelive iphasise umthetho lobuke kutfutfukisa tekundiza eminyakeni lophelile, sihlalo welikomiti lelibuke kusebenta kwelitiko letemisebenzi lemikhulu nekutfutsa endlini yabaye esikhulu Sandla Fakutse ucele lendlu ukuthi idzingidze iphindze iphasise imigomo yekusebenta kwalomthetho we-civil aviation. Lelunga lesekelwe ilunga lePhalamende lenkundla yaseNfonjeni Sifiso Magagula kulesishukumiso lapho bachazele khona indlu ukuthi lemigomo italisita live ukuthi tekundiza event ibambe emazinga emhlaba.
Live kufuna libe nalama regulations lekathebulishwa kuze litokhona ukuthi letikhanze liconforma kuma international standards ngale airport yakithi njengalokho ngalo sekhona intindiza leti suka la kithi tiye kulamanye amave bathi ke lama regulations langa atosisida umcondzisi ukuthi makwentwa lama audits nathi silive sitikhanze sibalwa emaveni la performa kangcono kwavela ke ukuthi kutaba khona umcondzisi for example sitawusuka labe sikhona khona ku 30% sikhuphukele ku 55% in terms of kuconfirma kwethu kulama standards labekiwe nekwekuthi ke masangenele onke lama regulations lamanye siyothanza nathi sesibalwa ukuthi international airport yethu nembala seyisezingeni lelifanele.
Lilunga lePhalamende lenkundla kalobamba lomdzala Mawik Khumalo libese liyashukumisa endlini ukuthi indlu igucise kushukunyiswa kwalombiko indlu iphasise lemigomo lapho esekele khona lilunga lePhalamende lenkundla yaseDvokodweni Mduduzi Magagula. Kanti indlu yabaye esikhulu bese yawemukela lombiko yaphasa nalemigomo ye-civil aviation. Etindzabeni Eswatini TV kubika samkeliswe khoza ngasikhumbuzo Dlamini naThemba Shabangu ePhalamende.
Umphathi wenkampani yahulumende lethenga iphindze ithengise tibhidvo kuleli i-National Agricultural Marketing Board akuyethabisi ukuthi balimbe tibhidvo labayithengiselako abasisebentisi ngalokuphelele isikhwama lesinemali lengu-10 million emalangeni i-Horticulture Revolving Fund lesungulelwe kubasita basalima. Umphathi walesikhwama abhekizwe Maziya uthi lesikhwama saqala kusebenta ngenyanga yeNgongoni eminyakeni lophelile kanti baselishumi labafake ticelo.
Sinakala ukuthi leticelo letiqhamukako kubalimi tisasetincane ati sibese igatse ukuthi balimi sibone batifaka ngebunengi bato ticelo tabo kepha ke lokusikhanyelako ukuthi basengakati kabandi basengakati baba banengi balimi ngalesikhwama lesikhona sekubaboleka ukuthi bayokhona kuyobuyela ensimini leti lesetifikile hovisi lethu siyadisebenta siyabasita abalimi ngoba leticelo tabo batfaka namport bese namport asangatihlunga bese utendlulisele ebhange Le response lesilechamuka kubalimi isengakasenetisi besikhathi ukuthi sibone inshisakalo iba inkulu kubalimi kepha isasephasi kuyasikhomba lensaye yaye kuphuma sibatise abantu ngalesikhwama bakuze batokhona ukusisebenzisa itokhona ke nelibhange nalo ukukhuthala ekuvuleni tinhlelo tibe diningi tekubolekisa kubalimi sibhekile ukuthi tisahamba tinhlelo sitahamba sikhule lesikhwama uma sibona le demand kubalimi iba yiningi labayidingako ngaphinze nje ngithi singilambodi asikagcini lapho sisatibuka letinye tinhlelo tekubuka ukuthi bangabambiseka kanjani kangcono futhi balimi kuze batositakala babe baningi ikakhulukazi nakuphathelana netimali tekuyosebenza khona tinhlelo letisasephayiphini lesisatipheka lesitabe sitimemetela masinyane nato
Lukhetfo lwemadolobha selichubekele esigabeni sekuncoma kuncomelwe labatawungenela sigaba sabo councillor idolobha lakaManzini lifundzise takhamuti taka-Ward 10 na 11 kaManzini ngesigaba sekuncoma lesilandzelako kulolu khetfo lwemadolobha.
Sekufike ke sigaba ke lapho khona ke sekumele ukuthi sale kunconywa labo lebabheke ukuthi babambe lamadolobha olishumi namathathu eveni lesithi ke ngema nomination la kunconywa khona lebe sibafundisa kona ke besifundisa njoba sevele kucalile ukuthi kunconywe kwekuthi kubhekeke ini ukuthi kuloyo ke lofitha ukuthi amele likhetho emadolobheni lebe sikuchaza bonkosi ngiloko ukuthi edolobheni njoba sesicalile sithi salebeta onke amadolobha onke 13 kulandza lama form lesithi ngona lokunconywa ngawo kubelekile ukuthi bete bawathathe kepha nakhona kubheke ukuthi lo mloyo lofuna ukungena lo khetho lwasedolobheni abe anqonywe abantu labangasibo ngaphansi kwabantu abalishumi kusho ukuthi ke kuncoma konke kulamadolobha olishumi namathathu kuyawendeka ngamhla ka26 kusho ukuthi ngilesihlanu lodako kusukela nga9 ekuseni kuze kube ngi12 uletha le nomination form wena lonconywako lonconywako lekulo office la returning office after 12 ngalo lesihlanu sekude ema nomination forms lathathwa
Sekubhalise abantu labangetulu kwetinkhulungwane letingemashumi layimfica 90,971 babhalisela likhetfo lwalonyaka lokuxhumanisa sive nelibandla lelikhetfo nemingcele embonisa ibhembe uthi leli bandla liyachubeka nekusebenzisana nemimango ukuqinisekisa ukuthi abantu labakhubatekile kanye nebantu labasha nabo abasaleli emuva nakwakhiwa live.
Kulilanga lokwenyuka libandla liwasonzelele emakholwa enhlangano lapho khona ahlangene khona ngebuningi bawo lenda ke libandla ukuthi kube melula ngekuthi livetele umshini na ukuthi uyakhumbula itolo lokhu libandla belisonzelele kubo bantwana besikolo lapho khona sibabona nabo baphuma ngelinani empeleni libandla libe selithi alibafundzise babodvana ikakhulu ngemsebenzi wabo ngamalungelo abo nema responsibilities abo njengaloku sesinabo bantwana labangetulu kweminyaka lelishumi nesiphohlongo 18 lapho khona sesibapha naleli thuba lokuthi babhalise baphumile ngebuningi babo libandla liyajabula ngawona lo msebenzi. Libandla likhulume nebaphathi bemango tindvuna nabomangwana kwendela ukuthi lolu sito lungahlali ndzawonye ngidawubekisa njengendzawo yasembelebeleni lapho khona sike seva likhona lelinye lijale likuvedile lokho kukhala lolo sacela indvuna ukuthi ayisonzele nobe ayisonzete lona lolo sito ngoba siyaye libandla lingaphumi lodvana kofa bese selihamba nebanikati bemango labatiko ukuthi ngikuphi lapho khona sive sisinengikhona sithi ke nasesicedzile kubabhalisa kuleyo ndzawo leyo bese siphindze futhi sesiyabuta sesichubekela kuphi sendele ukuthi sitawumikisa netimemetelo nobe sisebenzise amaphoyisa emango bagijimi sisebenzise bacucuteli nabo bonke labanye lesingabasebenzisa kuhambisa dona timemetelo kwenda ukuthi amaswati angahambi isigaba lesithe nakatofuna lona lelo sito.
Bantwana besikole besifundza saselibonjeni bathi luhlelo lolisukunyiswa litiko letisebenzi kanye nenhlalakahle yato sitokelwe kusonzetela lwati ebantwaneni besikolo ngekuthi ngimaphi emathuba la khona kutemabhizinisi kanye nokuthi bangafunzelani nabacedza sikolo Eswatini Career Expo. But lo hlelo lolo lumcoka kakhulu njengaloku libenta abati basafunza ukuthi angakuphi emathuba laveni. Imanyuvesi akuleli kanye netinhlangano letfundzisa ngemabhizinisi betikadze tikalanga lapho khona abafunzi bakulesifundza batfole ematfuba ekutfola lwati.
I-Eswatini Career Expo 2023 isukunyiswe ngalesibili ngephansi kwesiqubulo lesithi Enforcing Skills and Entrepreneurship for Inclusive Economic Growth in the 21st Century. Bafunzi betikolo tesifundza taselibonjeni bebakatse bangenele bathi basitakele kakhulu
ngoba lana sonke besicovered nathi thina lesingayati kahle maths but nje we were covered sibonile ma other career paths beside longa wenda beside maths ngaphandle kwe credit maths
ati ukuthi kuze ngifeze amaphupho ami yini lekuthi ngakuthi ngibe nako
ngisitakele kakhulu about kuthi ngendani after sengicedzile esikoleni.
Vele eminyakeni besifunza nje sathi ukuthi akune-university besingadi ukuthi le university inani langekhathi ukuze ubuye e-university kufanele uye kokwentani kufanele uphase ngakuphi wende ini ube busy ngani
funze ilo uchubeke uphuphe ufeze iphupho lakho ngema skills akho lonawo
fudzisekile kanconyana ngedream yami ngoba ngisolo ngifuna kuva ukuthi ngabe le dream lami lengifise kuba ngiyo itangisida inempilweni.
I've learned a lot here today. I've learned on how to apply for scholarships, and I've learned all the cut-off points I need to apply for the courses.
Thandi umthetho lovela ehhovisini lemphathi sifundza saselibonjeni uthi bantwana bebaphume ngetinkani kanti lesifundza sethemba ukuthi bantwana batawuvuleka emehlo babone ukuthi impilo ayiphelele eklasini kuphela lokutakwenta ukuthi babe bancane labaphuma bahlala emakhaya nasebacedze isikolwa etindzabeni kubika Fortune Dlangamandla titfombe Mthambo Mabuza nomalungelo Jele.
Temidlalo baqeqeshi labahlukahlukene bakuleli bathi kunesidingo sokuthi badlali bemidlalo webhola esikolweni banakwe ngalokuphelele kude kuthi likusasa lalomdlalo libe lihle. Duduzi Nxumalo loqeqesha likhethelo lesive lema under 20 uthi labadlali bemidlalo wesikolo ababonakala banelikhono sibili. Nxumalo kubetela ngesikhathi sichubeka imidlalo yesikolo eMbabane lesafika esigabeni sama quarter finals.
Ngemuva kokuthi kuphela isigaba sokuqala semidlalo yatiwa phecelezi ngama-schools sports games lapha khona uqala ematubane le midlalo kwanyalo ingena esigabeni lesibili lapho khona kuchubeka umdlalo webhola eMbabane. Le midlalo seyifika esigabeni sama-quarter finals. Siphesihle Simelane losekomitini nenhlangano ledlalisa imidlalo yetikolo eMbabane uthi lamaqembu kanye nabo-ke badlali bakhomba ukudimisela futhi nelizinga lale midlalo likhomba kuphakama impela.
Wona mahle kakhulu ema-games so far ngiyacabanga lokuthi nalo zawina all over Swaziland uzabachamuka eMbabane. There are good teams and in most cases incumbi yabo badlali lesinabo baka Premier League mostly baka First Division, so lizinga lisetulu kakhulu cishe kunalala amanye eminyaka.
Le midlalo-ke inika leli thuba lelihle nebaqeqeshi bakuleli labaqeqesha amaqembu lahlukahlukene kuthi-ke batikhombise ukuthi ngabe vele baphethene. Mduduzi Nxumalo loqeqesha likhethelo lesive lema under 20 kanye-ke naBongani Makhanya lowake waqeqesha amaqembu lafaka ekhathi iPickspeak Black Swallows bathi-ke lihle likhona labalibonako kubadlali.
I-talent ikhona and sewukuthi nje ifuna kunecharishwa. I think ngekuhamba kwesikhathi uyabona ukuthi badlali batawuba khona.
Yes, lithalenta likhona bafanele abancane betikolo likhona nje liningi kakhulu kwekuthi nje kudzinga lokuthi lidevelophe le talent. Ngicathi kudzingeka isikhathi nepatience ku-investa vele kule development yabo because nyalo ma-games elikolo nje lawa ku-asikhathi esincane kakhulu, so akukhanza ukuthi abasagurume kahle labadlali but otherwise lithanda liningi lidzinga nje i-patience nesikhathi.
Le midlalo-ke isekelwe inkampani ye-Instacash leyafaka imali lengu-350,000 emalangeni kanti-ke esikolwa saselangeni ngiso lesivikela lensebe. Etindzabeni temidlalo ngugiyani Msibi naFabrice Msonera eMbabane.
Tingako tala mhlekuseni lesikulethela dona tala pha ekhaya ngibonelo muhle. Sibahlola imakethe uma sibuya lungelele uhlala phansi na Executive Director with Junior Achievement bakhuluma nge-Youth Business Shower. Don't go anywhere.
Provide a loving home through the official Banfa Bed for Child Foster Care program.
Foster care is the temporary placement of a child who is in need of care and protection. The child is placed in the care of a suitable person who is not the parent or guardian of the child. It involves bringing a child into your home to care for and nurture as the state-certified caregiver. You could be the foster parent that our children dream of. For more information, visit our website or give us a call.
Alright, welcome back. Siphinde sinimukele nani lensanza kusivele lapha esivedela ukuthi sidaba sikhulumisana nemphathi wenkampani Junior Achievement. Sizokhuluma ukuthi emavikini lambalwa lengcile batholeke ukusekelwa ngenkampani Fincorp kanye nehulumende wase Taiwan labasokumisa uhlelo lwabo lolusha i-business shower lapho khona kutawusekelwa khona bamfula abasha lasebavele banemabhizinisi abo ukuthi bakhone kuchuba emabhizinisi abo. Ibitwa ke ukuthi youth business shower kutawubhaliswa ke bamfula abasha kubheka ukuthi babhalise ukuthi abantu abangcenye yalolu hlelo kusukela mhla ka-19 June kuya kumhla ka-23 June. Kepha kuyiteka kabanti we have Executive Director from Junior Achievement Kusile Masilela. Sivusele Kusile, thank you so much for joining us on the show. The initiative lenhle lena leni yendile and of course nibambisene netinkampani letinengi kuba khona bo Sedco bakhona bo Fincorp lasebafake imali kanye na hulumende wase Taiwan. Kusiniketa nje sithombe nje about this initiative nekuthi nifike njani like 10 nisukumise initiative yalo hlobo.
Siyabonga kakhulu. Thank you for hosting me. Lesingakuveta ngiloko ukuthi lesidingo selusito siyakhula every day kubantu labasha labacala emabhizinisi ngesizathu lesithi sonke siyabona kokuthi youth unemployment iyakhula every day. Sibathe siyazama but siyabona ukuthi ama-figures ethu ayasishaya. So nathi sing-Junior Achievement siyafisa lokudlala lichaza leliside ekwehliseni kungaqasheki nekungaqashwa kwabantu abasha. So lelikhono lekucala ibhizinisi ngilona silikhuthata kokuthi umfula omusha manje sikhona lesitifiketi ukuthi ugraduateile ukwendile whatever but umsebenzi akawutholi sithi thina likhona lithuba lokuthi angatiphilisa ngicala ibhizinisi. So i-youth business shower i-concept lelandzela i-model or i-approach ye baby shower or bridal shower or whatever lokuma shower lesikujwayele. So sithi thina sing-Junior Achievement ngoba sijwayele lokho ukuthi uma umfuna kataba nemvana siyam celebrate simthengele ama gifts sibuye sibangani bakhe sidle kahle sijabule kubese phathini. So we're saying, can we use that same approach for young people laba khethe kahle benda sinqumo lesihle sekucala ibhizinisi ngoba utawucontributor emnothweni welive lo muntu loyo. So ke si mobilize tinkampani kokuthi tiba support abantu labasha labadinga i-seed capital. So mhla ka-19 to 23 June ngilasenda khona le youth business shower sitabe se metropolitan ngamanzini. Lokuvela kolana kokuthi Lusito silitholile lekwenda lo mcimbi lona o lo msebenzi lona liviki lonke uyabita kona ngoba sikulelanga lekucala nje mhla ka 19 namhla ka 23 sibheke ukuthi sidabe sinebantu labasha abangu 500 emetropolitan labaqhamuka from all over the country. Sinema partners ethu lesisebenta nawo labatasithumelela abantu labasha labaleke kuma regions bete emetropolitan. So kulokulanga lekucala mhla ka 19 sidabe siba exposure to lama service providers seed capital specifically. Yo Sedco cija ngebusiness ukhona lapho, ukhona youth fund, ukhona FinCorp, ukhona emabhange akhona. That's your seed capital service provider. So labo siyafisa lokhu ukuthi bakhulumise labantu labasha ukuthi nawudinga i-seed capital ngalanga kimi mina ngifika ngibuke ini ebhizinisini yakho kuze ukuthi ngikhone ukukusekela. Bese ke ngalomhla ka 20 lokusho ukuthi Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday ngila khona laba labatabe basubmit business plans abo laba applya konje nyalo ku website ya JA batawube sebona sebaya pitcha umflow mshuta aba na 5 minutes kokuthi summarize business yakhe ukuthi kahle kahle yena ufuna kwendani and inyalo yini la kuqalile ngula kaswele khona ulitsinga kuphi lisito. Bese ke lama judge latawuqhamuka etinkampanini letehlukehlukene wona lama service providers ayakhona ke kubuka kokuthi lona ngathi mina ngiyamthanza ka FinCorp o lona mina ngiyamthanza ngilibhange la Standard Bank ngicabanga ukuthi ngingakhona kumsita tinto letifana nalento le kanjalo ukuthi asimane silekelele labantu labasha. So silitholile ke lisito lwetimali from FinCorp usiphile 300,000 kulo 300,000 kunemali yema course bese kuba na 50,000 lekathi yena angajabulela kumnika abantu labasha labasihlanu i-seed capital. Bese kuba nemashayina lasitile through Ministry of Commerce kanye ne-economic planning basipha nabo 400,000 ukuthi sikhone kubhadala ema course aleliviki lonke. Bese ke sesithatha 100,000 lapho sesisita abantu labasha labayi10 ema projections ethu athina sisebente kahle kulelo viki. Singajabula ukuthi sisite bantu labasha plus minus 90 webantu labasha nasebente kahle siyakhola ukuthi sitawusebenza kahle.
Okay. Njengoba usho phethile ukuthi abantu labasha labaningi lapha eveni vele baswela yona imisebenzi nje. Youth unemployment I think imela bo 58%. So everyone will be scrambling for the opportunity lena. Are you looking for young people that already have existing businesses noma mhlawumbe nje nami nje ngisekhaya ngifuna kusungula business ngine business plan ngifuna kucala nida ngivumela ukuthi ngibe ngikhone ka-apply nifuna athini lama requirements do nifuna ama individuals noma a group of young people athini vele lawa ama requirements nje ngicoko.
Thank you very much. Sitele nginga ukuthi une group noma uyi individual kithi akunanzaba lokho sine simcoka ngeke ukuthi uke wa trainwa yini ngebusiness vele shemlonga kayendi training ngebusiness angeke size simthathe enisiyafuna lobufakazi ukuthi yathi mina Sedco songtrainile wanginika nesitifiketi sengiyendile nebusiness plan manje sengishoda ngale mali yekuqala. Uyakubona lokho maybe usengakaqali but ungakhona kuzivetela lobufakazi bekokuthi ngitrainiwe sengiready lokuthi ngiqale manje ngishoda ngemali. Emajaji atawube sayayosibuka ke sicelo sakho kodwa liqiniso lithi vele lo tawuthi khanza asemathubeni langcono ngulo lo tokhanza ukuthi so uqalile yena so le business yakhe so uya understand ngaphandle kokufunza phansi i-business plan angakhona nje ukuthi ayikhulume in 5 minutes angafunzi lutho ngoba sincane lesikhathi cabanga kufanele kupitche 15 young people in each room ema rooms ang3 lokusho ukuthi i-room yinye kutawupitcha 45 webantu labasha. That's a lot. So kufuna ukuthi na ufika lapha embuku emajaji ufike ungumuntu lo yatiko info yakho bathi noma bakubuta babe convinced ukuthi cha uyayathi lento nema challenges laphathelene nebusiness so yawathi imarket yakho iclear ukuthi uyothengisa kuphi ngoba phela akusika walala demand abantu labafisile kusita abantu labasha Bekufanele ukuthi siyibone ukuthi iyakhona le mali kuqhubekisa impilo phambili 1 2 uyakhona futhi nekucasha labanye abantu labasha sibabone ukuthi bayangena ebhizinisini yakho uyabacasha as disabled ema requirements basically ngulawo sicela ukubona ukuthi uyendile i-training
just nje kuhlaba nje be clear lo ukuthi ingaba khona mhlambe i-institute lenye la ngitfole khona i-training noma mhlambe nifuna nje specifically setco noma akhona lamanye organizations la ngidabe ngithole khona le training
any manengi ma partners lekende ma trainings on entrepreneurship nathi nje siyawenda youth fund uyawenda naye ma trainings setco uyawenda catalyze uyawenda ngeke ngize ngibacethe nangingababala thina sicela nje lokufakazi bekokuthi wena you've gone through a certain entrepreneurship training ngoba imcoka kakhulu ngiyo lele taxita ukuthi wati ukuthi kumele wenteni la ebusinessini so na ungakayendi ukhanza ukuthi i-risk yebusiness yakho ukuthi ingafaila iba setulu.
Okay. Yes. So ungifuna ukuthi nje indzaba tale funding ukuthi is there stipulated amount mhlambe lento abanika yona abamhlabasha kubuka nje lokuthi ifuna ukupha ufake 400,000 na Taiwan ngala ufakile noma mhlambe ndawubuka ibusiness yaleyo soma business loyo ikhona i-amount vele exact elebekiwe ukuthi vele ngiyo le ndawo nika abamhlabasha.
It's an average because ngema startups lawa so kahle startup vele ukhanza kokuthi kuba kahle lokuthi uthi start low ungaqali ngekufuna imali lenkulu ngoba udokhanza semathuba akho ekuphumelela ataba mancane so as a startup we are looking at an average of plus minus 10,000 umflomusha amunye lamanye ama business akafiki nala kulo 10,000 angibekise nje lofuna kwenta tingalo 5,000 uyanela uyayithola ikit nga 3.5 1.5 yo wenda letinye tinfo uyaqala wenda abantu tingalo I'm making an example so akusiwo onke ema business lo dokhana ayafika kulo 10,000 lo munye vele uthi ngalo 5 but we are saying look at a business plan leta wenda kokuthi isicelo sakho sibe average ya plus minus 10,000 still khona phela ukuthi sithi reach out to more young people.
Okay, wabekisa njenge business yetingalo ukuthi bengisafuna ukubuta nje ukuthi vele what are the type of businesses lenibukele ukuthi nifisa ukubona nabasabhalisa abamhlabasha ngilama business nje labo lamancane noma mhlambe yingimaphi nje kahle lenogatsile nje inhlobo tema business.
I-business lencane i-industry sithi inkinga ukuthi ungakuphi it can be any industry but as long as ku startup by startup we mean either awukaqali but you are very clear ukuthi ufuna kwentani and i-business plan unayo onke lama requirements lamanye business yakho so i-register sekusele nje ukuthi uqale or so uqalile nje just a few months ago or a year ago usesekuqaleni kwale business yakho kwana nawe you are still trying to find your way through so ngiloko thina lesikuzingako ukuthi kukiphi industry we don't have a problem.
Okay. Yes. So yena nje lentshisekelo nje phethile nivele nihlala nisebentana bamhlabasha mihla yonke inganani vele nje the urge to want to know more about business to start businesses ingana nje vele ntshisekelo kubamhlabasha.
It's very high size sifika nje la ekuthenini can we do a business shower nathi sesishaywa ngile demand. Le demand is very high sitibona ngathi we are helpless asikhona ukubasita labantu labasha ngale lizinga lesilibonako angikube kusele nje thina nje singi-JA sisodwana abantu labasha lesinesiqiniseko ukuthi lo utrainile uyiqalile ibusiness uyendile mentorship ya 6 months uyazabalaza for a few months we have 200 young people that are on queue bamele nje ukuthi ngabe JA ngula ngasitakala khona ngitsinga imali so it's a bit overwhelming for us nathi as an office that is why sesithi kuma partners ethu siyacela ukuthi loyo longaba naye 10,000 even if you helping one young person you making a difference so as long as ucabanga ukuthi ungaba naye 10,000 in your coffers to help one young person aqala ibusiness aqhubekele phambili siyacela ukuthi usiside ngalolo hlangothi sine sitawenda siqiniseke ukuthi siyamlanzelela lo mflomusha nasekaqalile nawe siyakunika lithuba leko ukuthi uhambe uyobuka ukuthi imali yakho la yabheka ngakhona ingabe vele kuyacathuda yini noma lo muntu so wangena emenene banilabasha bafuna imali at the end of the day kuthi le mali ifike njani they don't care that is why sesibona ukukhula kwebantu bethu who have gone to the streets bayothengisa ngemitimba yabo The rate is going up every day, young girls. So umbuto uti, can't we get hold of those young people isibabuyise baqalise business? Ngoba lokumqoka akusiko ukuthi imali uyithole kanjani lokuthi athole le mali. But they were saying there is the right way of getting money, and that is through your own business without ukuthi sowuthengisa ngemtimba wakho or so webile. So I mean kuningi nje lokwendekako among young people, but uyabona ukuthi ngile level of desperation it's very high, and impilo ilukhuni vele bahleti abenti lutho. They are in the bus nyalo nje kuseni bavukele etitolo bahleli lapha etitolo la ngaphandle bayabhema benda konke, you know. So we're saying, can we as a country come together and offer this little kind of help to labantu labasha kube khona laba kwendako loku productive?
Okay. Youth Enterprise Revolving Fund bayakhala ngokuthi ama-applications laba atholago. I think over the years nje basola bakhala nje ukuthi bathola one and the same business plans, business ideas. Kwangathi business ideas ababasha ayafanana ikakhulukazi kule sector ya agriculture. Ingabe vele mhlambe lena kukinga kanganani nje lokuthi vele batawusungula ama-business lapho afanana. Ngibekisa nje ngale idingalo vele sebaningi labenta idingalo. Kubaleka ngana nje lokuthi vele babe creative, you know, think out of the box, create bacala nje business mhlambe lengakavame but leto bendela i-profit. Ingabe lokho kubaleka ngana lokuthi vele baku consideration as basangena kule sector le.
Kakhulu kubalekile kakhulu because the world is moving alikasimeli, and imarket every day iba flooded, and nawe uyabona ukuthi kufuna ukuthi ibhizinisi yakho langa ngelanga uthi kuyikhuphula and be ahead of your competitors. So innovation siyayikhuthaza kakhulu thina sing junior achievement. That is why sicala as low as high school kokuthi lo mntwana athi kokuthi nangenda ibhizinisi kufuna kokuthi ibhizinisi yami yehluke from all other businesses lekake abakhona or concepts lekake abakhona around my line of approach. So innovation imcoka uqinisile nje youth fund nakathi ema-business plans lamaningi lekawathola kukhanda ukuthi within an industry sekayafanana, because baningi labo copy and paste. Maybe mina ngimbonile umvlo mshalongo uzibani banyana ukuthi ayibhizinisi yakhe iyahamba, and then nami sengifuna kwenda lokho. Liqiniso lithi you are reducing your chances of success ngoba nyalo usowutingeta vele soba i-competition to the other person, and yena so ne-experience lokusho ukuthi vele ahead of you. So uyatilimata wena kukahle lo ukuthi uqhamuke ne-idea lensha, much as it's an existing business idea, but what's different about it from all the others lekake abakhona nje? Yini lokwehlukile ngale yakho ibhizinisi? Yini lokungenda ukuthi ngingathengi ku business A ngiyothenga ku business B mina as a customer? So innovation comes first, and the world is moving very fast. Kufuna ukuthi nathi sibani labasha sithi move with the world, moved with the fourth industrial revolution. Lengiyona vele isiguide acishe intweni letinengi kokuthi yonke info computerized, digitalized. Siyakhona yini kwenda e-commerce? Ibhizinisi yakho ungakhona yini vele ukuthi uwende nje e-commerce and uthengisele ama customer akho? Siyababona ke bantu laba nebantu labadzala nje generally sebayati ukuthi kuyathengiswa ku Facebook. Ngikulenye group nje ema farmers ku Facebook, organic farmers, you know, umuntu uyaposta lapha ngithengisa inkomo in 10,000. By the end of the day it's gone. Wena bothi na inkomo 10,000 asengilungisa imali. No, by the end of the day it's gone. So kufuna kokuthi sonke sibe aligned to letindlela leto, but make your business attractive for the customer.
Alright, kuma sesicetha nje phethile ngifuna kubuta ngenzaba yema repayment terms. Ngiyadloko ukuthi ngidawufuna awulesimo ukuthi ngidawufuna kusitela abanye abamfulabasha futhi ukuthi nabo bakhona ukuthola le funding. So laba kubhekile ukuthi bayibhadalele manje ngabe vele mhlambe banesikhathi esinganani ukuthi bayibuyise?
Specifically for the business shower, akusi yonke lento abangema loans. Kuthiwa ngeke ukuthi le service provider lo lokunikele imali uthi yena yi-loan noma uthi grant. Angibekise nje njengalele echamuke emashayineni, that's not a loan, it's a grant. so laba labatayitfola vele ngeke baze bayibhisi. But nakatawuchamuka Standard Bank athi mine ku SME department yami ngingakhipha ama-loans up to this amount la sita abantu labasha and nginaba lengibone ukuthi from the charging session bangakhona obane potential ukuthi bangakhona kuyibhadala back le mali. That's a loan. Youth fund, that's a loan. FinCorp, it will be a loan. Ngaphandle kwala lasinike yona thina. Leta uphuma ngalanga ngakithi, definitely that money is now a grant. So kutaya ngeke ukuthi le service provider yona isi le mali loan noma I grant. So it's a pool of service providers. Labane ma terms and conditions abo. We don't want to disturb those terms and conditions because they have a reason why bawabeka ukuthi abe kanjalo. Sinele sicela kunje ukuthi can you avail your services to young people laba deserve ukuthi ungabasida.
All right, thanks so much Kusile. Ngicabanga ukuthi ama details lamanye bangawathola ku Facebook page lenu.
Yes, please siyacela ukuthi abantu labasha labafuna register for this program baye ku website yethu www.jaswaziland.org www.jaswaziland.org utokhona register lapho utokhona kubona ukuthi youth business shower ingakuphi and register nema companies that would also like to be part of this program. Please register your interest ukuthi uyafisa kusita abantu labasha and then we will discuss. Kunema links la ithule ndawakhanza lapho. Link yekuqala yebantu labasha labafuna register, ilink yesibili yema partners lafuna ku offerisha support. You can also go to our Facebook page JA Eswatini utawukhanza futhi ema links lapho ne advert lesho ukuthi what are the guidelines.
All right, thanks so much Betsy Sibangakolo Mbukeli. Na umplomusha sethemba ukuthi kunengi lokutfolile kule interview lena nawe mangabe ufise ukuthi ibusiness yakho ifundwe ungangena khona ka Facebook imininingwane iyatfolakala khona yonke. Let's take a break sabe sichubeka nehlelo.
Do you remember the spinning thing? This is us. This picture represents what we did. We were there when coronavirus wreaked havoc in our population. Together with other stakeholders, we formed the first line, controlling the spread of the unknown and unseen enemy of the people. Anxious ourselves, we collected dead bodies countrywide. At the time when no one wanted to come near dead bodies of loved ones, we did care for our fellow citizens. Thank you, the people of Eswatini and teams of first responders.
Welcome back. Sikuvusele nawe lothanza kuzivulela sidabuka simo semgwaco lomhla ekseni na Sergeant Gule. Asikuvusele eMagwabani lomhla ekseni ngabe kuhambeka kanjani emigwacweni elive?
Angivusele Thombeni, ngivusele umbukelo waloluhlelo. Sivuka sinenkhungu lamhla ihambisana nemkhemedelo. Inkhungu ikhansa phasi etindzawo letiphakeme. Kukhumbuta nje bashayele ukuthi asichubeke bekunene sikhanyise emalambu. Wende isiqiniseko sokuthi litubane uyalinciphisa nemigamo yokulandzela lenye imodolo. Uyawugcina kuba ngidolo phephile kanti ke emadolobheni ethu tibanete emgwaqo mbabane kumatsapha manzini nalapha enhlangano tisebenta kahle noko ke emgwaqweni wethu lomkhulu losuka lapha ekeni lasengwenya ubheke khona lapha kumatsapha lapha kumalagwane na uqala yona kwehla inthaba timile timoto letinkulu dithethe umzila longasencele kule cooling station kucizelela nje kakhulu kubashayeli ukuthi awube kunene asigcine sekudla thina sihamba imoto letincane senesiqiniseko sokuthi-ke nelitubane siyalinciphisa kuleyo ngcingwana leyo nemgwaqo wethu ke longsomhlelo road lokuqhamuka khona lapha boScott ungene khona lapha bosandla extension lapha uyoqhamukela lapha eLunga House leyo mgwaqo loyo solo uvaliwe uvulelwe nje takhamuti kuphela ukuthi tingakhona kuhamba lapho wena ke longena edolobheni utihambela nje ungasiso sakhamuti sikhuthatha ukuthi ingena lapha endasi umanzana emgwaqweni lomkhulu lapha uhambe ngase Central esikolweni lesikhulu uyokuchamukela lapha ngakubo okay futhi kanjalo ke futhi nawe wena lofuna kuphuma edolobheni siyakhuthaza lokuthi singamsebenzisi iSomhlolo Road njengoba kustaladi lesibisitela kosibili kunalabo labakhako lapha kuloya mgwaqo loya kanti nawusuka emotshane wenga lapha enkhaba esikolweni noma ke clinic ubuka lapha edamu kopha ke emzileni lobuya ngakhona embabane kuneloli lapho lefele ekhathi nemgwaqo yena ke ukuthi imotolo lapho dingakhona ke kuphambana kahle siyakhuthaza nakhona ukuthi asinake le dotimbawu indzawo leya lenetinkhungu kakhulu dikhansa phansi litubane lakho nje naso ubone tona leto timpawu leticwayisako linciphise libe ngilelo leliphansi kakhulu kanti lapha kumathapha kuleya traffic circle lapha phasi elibloho lapha kaMahala solo kuyasetshenzwa lapho nakhona kuyaba khona kusikamedeka kuhamba kwato ke imotolo lapho sithi nje abe kunene asichubeke sishayele ngalokukhulu kucophelela kanjalo nakuwo umgwaqo losuka khona lapha kaMahala ubheke khona lapha ku Sundowners bomahlanya ngumgwaqo nje lo tabe uphithitela sibili namhla umthamo wemotolo utabe usedulu kakhulu ikakhulukazi lapha enokwane lesithi nje awube kunene nakhona asicaphele ataba khona ke amaphoyisa ulawula kona kuhamba kwato ke imotolo kanti ishiselweni khona lesingakuphawula nje emgwaqweni sibheka khona lapha enhlangano kusukela nje lapha kubo New Village ubheka lapha kubongwane park awube kunene asicaphele lapha ama-potholes nakhona lasabonakala amakhulu kakhulu nakuletinye ke tifunza emehlo akho umshayeli akabe ngilawo lavulekile lakhaliphile ucenza indlela nekubona lokho kusenesikhathi lokungahle kubangeke yona ke ingoti kanti ke kuletinye tifunza lesingakugcizelela nje bekunene umthamo wemotolo usedula sijinge sicaphele ke nemfuyo iyabonakala emigwaqweni sikhumbuleni malangeni lamahle liviki lele kuphepha ngakho ke asenesiqiniseko sokuthi la ukhona khona uyabonakala nesindzaba tekuphepha udibeka embili ngaso sonke isikhathi sinifisela nje ilanga lelihle nisachubeka nemsebenzweni sasebenzisa yona imigwaqo nempela sonto leyaba ngilephephile nani endlini emsakato sinifisele lona lisuku loluhle nisachubeka nemsebenzweni siyabonga kakhulu
Asibonga kakhulu Gule ngaloyo mbiko wesimo semgwaqo mhla ekseni ngo 2 minutes before 7 aseselkhefu sibuye nama international news.
Using an ATM is a simple process. You simply insert your card, punch in your PIN, and withdraw your cash. However, this simple process can open up you and your finances to some dangers. So it is very important that you proceed with caution when using the ATM and never share your PIN. When approaching the ATM, it is very important that you have your card ready, either in your hand or in your pocket, so that you do not waste time going through your belongings, either your wallet or your handbag, as this will give opportunities for thieves to act. Thirdly, put your money away immediately. Don't give anyone an opportunity to grab your cash or your card after a withdrawal. Lastly, always take your receipt after each and every transaction. It is important that you get your slip after every transaction because it contains crucial information about your balances, and that may lead you to be a victim of bolandela. Be cyber aware, be cyber smart.
Good morning and welcome back. Thank you for staying with us. Let's take a look at international news. It is near certain that 2023-2027 will be the warmest 5-year period ever recorded. The United Nations warned on Wednesday as greenhouse gases and El Nino combine to send temperatures soaring.
It is a stark warning, yet another one about the climate emergency affecting all of us. The UN's World Meteorological Organization, the WMO, is saying that for the first time ever, global temperatures are now more likely than not to breach 1.5 degrees Celsius of warming between now and 2027.
There's a 66% chance that we would exceed 1.5 degrees during the coming 5 years. It's a conclusion that we haven't been able to limit the warming so far, and we are still moving in the wrong direction.
The UN body's forecast last year put the odds at about 50-50. The factor partially responsible for boosting the chance of hitting 1.5 degrees Celsius is an El Nino weather pattern expected to develop in the coming months.
Even drier.
Sometimes, and this is what happens in an El Nino, the temperatures warm up in the East Tropical Pacific and gives us a very warm temperatures that then are transmitted into the atmosphere, and it generally warms up the globe. And this happens to be a very sensitive region as well, in that there are connections to many other parts of the world, and it affects rainfall and temperatures across the globe.
The WMO, in its report, says the El Nino cycle means there's a 98% chance the next 5 years will be the hottest 5 years on record. While flagging up its concern, the predicted spike in temperatures is likely to be temporary. Greenpeace, meanwhile, says the report must be a rallying cry to intensify global efforts to tackle the climate crisis.
At least 9 people died in Italy's northern Emilia-Romagna region as heavy rains flooded rivers and submerged entire neighborhoods and farmland on Wednesday, prompting the cancellation of this weekend's Imola Grand Prix.
Rescue crews wade through muddy waters in search of the missing. The northern Italian region of Emilia-Romagna has been hit by heavy flooding in recent days. It's caused landslides and resulted in the evacuation of thousands of residents.
24 municipalities have been flooded. Unfortunately, all the rivers of Emilia-Romagna have overflowed over their embankments, causing flooding.
The floods in the region have been described as apocalyptic and unprecedented. It's even pushed authorities to cancel this weekend's Emilia-Romagna Formula One due to safety concerns. Residents who've been impacted by the floods are now trying to salvage whatever they can.
We all live on the ground floor over there. It has been a tragedy because we are taking what can be saved, which is very little.
The children, they don't know anything. They're just crying.
I didn't believe it would arrive here.
The heavy flooding in Emilia-Romagna has left 50,000 homes without electricity. The region had already been hit by heavy rains a fortnight ago. Italy's Prime Minister, meanwhile, pledged support for flood victims and said her government was ready to intervene with aid.
World leaders landed Thursday for a Group of 7 meeting in Hiroshima, the site of the world's first atomic bomb attack, with Russia's war in Ukraine expected to be high on the agenda.
Joe Biden may be taking off for Japan, but domestic issues have grounded his ambitions. His trip, which was supposed to showcase Indo-Pacific unity against China's posturing, is being overshadowed by American political infighting. Worry that the US's debt ceiling may come crashing down will likely plague discussions between the G7 nations in Hiroshima this weekend, distracting from Biden's preferred itinerary. Although shortened, his trip has opened him up to criticism from the opposition.
Mr. President, stop hiding. Stop traveling somewhere else. America wants an American president focused on American problems, finding American solutions.
Despite problems at home, Biden looks to promote economic unity against the bloc's foes. In Hiroshima, a city whose very name evokes war and nuclear destruction, the leaders of France, Germany, Italy, the UK, US, Canada and Japan will all call for an end to the war in Ukraine, with Volodymyr Zelensky tipped to address the summit via video link. Calling upon the ghosts of the past, host Prime Minister Kishida will push for nuclear disarmament and the following of international order. Growing aggression from China, Russia and North Korea is likely to loom large over proceedings too. But despite the G7 agenda, there is still disappointment in the region that Biden's visit was curtailed, particularly in Papua New Guinea. In response, the White House has vowed to hold a Pacific Island summit, the second of its type within 12 months, as Washington looks to stave off Chinese influence in the Indo-Pacific.
Ukraine said unprecedented air attacks had rocked the capital and other cities early on Thursday, while a missile strike killed at least one person in Odessa.
It's the latest Russian attack on Kyiv, which has failed to strike the Ukrainian capital. Rocket debris could be seen in the streets after the city was attacked from air by Russia for the 9th time this month. The military said it had shot down 29 out of the 30 cruise missiles which targeted the country, and that none had struck the capital. Nonetheless, residents were shaken.
I woke up and jumped out of bed. People say their windows are broken. The plastic ones held out, the wooden ones broke.
Falling debris caused 2 fires in Kyiv, one in a garage and the other in a non-residential building. Blasts were also heard in the central regions of Khmelnytsky, Zhytomyr and Vinnytsia. Officials said that 1 person was killed and 2 were injured following a missile attack on Odessa in the southwest. Earlier in the week, Ukrainian air defences intercepted an intense Russian attack on Kyiv, in which 6 Kinzhal hypersonic missiles were fired. An American-made Patriot air defense system was damaged in the attack, but remained operational, according to 2 US officials. Western air defense systems such as the Patriot have been crucial in protecting Kyiv from the kind of damage along the country's main front line. The attacks come as Ukraine is preparing to launch a counter-offensive against Russia's invading forces.
Chinese Special Envoy Li Yu arrived in Kyiv this week to discuss efforts by his country to mediate between Russia and Ukraine. Ukrainian analysts say Kyiv has no illusions about China's ability to deliver a peace agreement, but say it is important for Ukraine to maintain a dialogue with China.
Chinese Special Envoy Li Hui's visit comes after Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky and Chinese President Xi Jinping spoke by phone last month, their first phone call since Russia's full-scale invasion of Ukraine began. That call marked a new stage in Ukraine-China relations. President Zelensky said the conversation was long and meaningful. He announced the appointment of the new Ukrainian ambassador to China the same day. China says its priority is to promote peace talks and promised to send a special envoy to Ukraine. Li Hui arrived in Ukraine on May 16, meeting with the Minister of Foreign Affairs of Ukraine, Dmytro Kuleba, for talks on ending hostilities. Volodymyr Fesenko, a political analyst in Kyiv, describes Li Hui's visit as shuttle diplomacy that will serve, more than anything, Beijing's interests in the region.
This special representative will work not only to overcome the war between Ukraine and Russia, but more to strengthen China's influence in Europe. It is important for Ukraine that China is a peace mediator rather than a direct military ally of Russia.
At the same time, Vita Golod, who heads the board of the Ukrainian Association of Sinologists, emphasizes the importance of maintaining a dialogue with China and seeing what it has to offer.
We should not make an enemy of China. This is our task at the moment, to leave China in the position they are taking. This is a Chinese game, and we have to perceive this game as a Chinese strategic position in the long run. When we analyze the so-called peace plan, China's position on the settlement of what they call the Ukrainian crisis, we saw that there are common points between the peace plan and Zelensky's peace formula. There is something to work with.
Analysts here see no reason to expect Li Hui's visit to be a game changer, but are positive about the involvement of China as a neutral party. On the streets, Ukrainians are more skeptical.
I believe that China can be a mediator in the negotiations, but they have their own goal, purpose, and interest in this. And I believe that, unfortunately, not for the benefit of Ukraine, but for their own benefit.
When the war started, China was not on our side.
From the very beginning, it supported Russia, and I would not want it to be a mediator in the negotiations. But it decides a bigger role for our country than anyone else, because it has some direct connection with Russia.
After 2 days of talks with Ukraine's foreign minister, it was still unclear what next steps China will take to try to end the war Russia started with its invasion.
Pakistani police kept up their siege around the home of Imran Khan as a 24-hour deadline given to the former premier to hand over suspects allegedly sheltered inside expired on Thursday.
Dozens of police officers, some wearing helmets and bulletproof jackets, wait outside the home of Pakistan's former Prime Minister, Imran Khan. They claim that Khan is hiding people involved in violent protests against his recent detention. Earlier in the day, Khan was given an ultimatum to hand over the 40 suspects linked to the protests or face a police raid. In a live video statement on Wednesday, he said that he expected to be rearrested.
I just heard that I have given refuge to 40 terrorists in my house, and an operation will be launched to arrest the 40 terrorists. If 40 terrorists are hiding at my residence, then it's a threat to my life too. Please come, but not like this, to attack my house.
Khan, who was removed by a no-confidence vote in Parliament last year, is currently facing more than 100 cases, including a corruption case with his wife. The demonstrations following his arrest last week saw thousands of his supporters attack and set fire to public property and government buildings, including the army's headquarters. 10 people were killed in the clashes and over 4,000 were arrested. Last Friday, Khan was released on bail for 2 weeks following a decision from the Islamabad High Court, but his legal team fears that he may be arrested in old cases. On Tuesday, Pakistan's civilian and military leaders, who suspect that Khan organised the protests, said that rioters and their backers would be tried under army laws. According to Khan, the attacks on military installations were part of a conspiracy to trigger a fight between his party and the military.
Residents of Myanmar's cyclone-ravaged Rakhine state capital queued for rice and drinking water on Wednesday as the United Nations negotiated with the internationally isolated junta for access to hard-hit areas.
It's being called a humanitarian catastrophe. As Myanmar's Rakhine state reels from the devastating cyclone Mocha, residents search for food and water. In the capital of the region, water purification plants are shut down as a consequence of the storm, leaving the city of some 150,000 people without a supply of drinkable water. While some can afford to purchase the precious resource for a high price, those from poorer communities are left to rely on aid.
I've been queuing for 30 minutes. This is my place and many people are in front of me. I just wanted to get 2 water tanks. I think this is the only place in Sitwe that is giving water.
Same scenario in this monastery where the United Nations World Food Programme has set up temporary accommodation. Here, people are rushing to receive bags of rice.
I haven't eaten for 4 days. I don't have bowls, plates, or a home. I don't even have clothes to change. I'm here to ask for rice as my family is starving.
However, Cyclone Mocha has cut off certain areas in Myanmar from the world, making aid access difficult. The United Nations say negotiations with Myanmar's military junta for access to cyclone-affected areas are still ongoing. The memory of Cyclone Nargis in 2008 remains ever present. The then junta was accused of blocking emergency aid and initially refusing to grant access to humanitarian workers and supplies.
And it's now estimated that at least 3 million people are going to need humanitarian aid, emergency humanitarian aid, as a direct result of the cyclone. The humanitarian response capacity is limited because of severe underfunding.
This underfunding could affect the Rohingya exiles in particular. Rakhine State is home to around 600,000 Rohingya, with several 100,000 members of this ethnic group living in the areas affected by the cyclone between Myanmar and neighboring Bangladesh.
Thousands of Argentine workers and social organizations flooded the capital city of Argentina's main avenues to protest against hunger and poverty.
With inflation at 30-year record highs, Argentinians staged a protest against the government's economic policies.
Demonstrators from many worker and social organizations camped outside of Government House for 24 hours to demand more aid for those struggling to make ends meet.
We are camping here to claim basic things: work, health, education. As I just said, the responsibility of stopping inflation lies with the government, and if they can't, they must leave.
In April, the country's inflation rate hit 109% compared to a year ago, a high not seen since the early 1990s. The soaring prices have spurred fears of a return to the hyperinflation that hit Argentina 30 years ago.
It's impossible to buy meat, it's impossible to buy chicken. 15 days ago, the dollar in Argentina was touching 500 pesos. What we could buy in the morning with this inflation, in the afternoon, we would buy half of it. The situation is critical.
In an effort to tackle the runaway inflation, on Monday, the country's central bank raised its key interest rate by 6 percentage points to 97%. The government has also capped the price of some food items and other products. Argentina is also implementing a series of measures required by the International Monetary Fund to meet the conditions of its $44 billion loan deal, measures that have proved deeply unpopular.
Syrian President Bashar Assad arrived on Thursday in Saudi Arabia to attend a regional summit that is expected to seal Syria's return to the Arab fold, marking his first visit to the oil-rich kingdom since Syria's conflict began in 2011.
Stepping off a plane in Jeddah, Bashar al-Assad was greeted with handshakes and smiles. Once a pariah among the Arab League, the 22-member countries are welcoming the Syrian president back. Earlier this month, the Arab world's top diplomats agreed to fully reinstate Syria's membership after a 12-year suspension over Assad's crackdown on protesters during the Arab Spring uprising in 2011. The conflict evolved into a civil war that has left hundreds of thousands of people dead and displaced millions of Syrians within the country. Isolated on the world stage, Assad turned to Russia and Iran, carrying out acts that human rights groups say make him a war criminal, someone who does not deserve to be legitimized by other Arab nations.
Obviously, he does not belong in the Arab League, because he is the head of a regime that for 12 years has committed crimes against humanity, using chemical weapons, torturing and executing unarmed civilians.
Diplomatic contact intensified between Damascus and Arab countries following two massive earthquakes that hit Syria and Turkey back in February, killing more than 6,000 Syrians. And while members of the Arab League are divided over normalizing relations with Assad, he now has a seat at the table. Still subject to American and European sanctions for his war atrocities, critics say Assad has paid little price to be readmitted into the Arab fold.
Britain this week called for reform of the European Court of Human Rights after judges blocked flights carrying asylum seekers to Rwanda for processing. There's been a sharp rise in the number of migrants arriving in small boats on Britain's shores, and the government believes the policy of sending them to Rwanda will dissuade many from making the dangerous journey.
British authorities have detected almost 7,000 migrants crossing the English Channel in small boats from France so far this year. The total for 2022 exceeded 45,000. British Prime Minister Rishi Sunak has repeatedly pledged to, in his words, stop the boats. So Britain signed a deal with Kigali last year, which would see an unspecified number of migrants flown there for processing, asylum and resettlement, with no right to appeal. Britain has already paid Rwanda $150 million under the agreement.
It's novel, it's ambitious, but I believe it is compliant with our international obligations.
But judges at the European Court of Human Rights disagreed. Just as the first plane was about to take off for Rwanda last June, the court issued what's known as a Rule 39 injunction, blocking the flights on the grounds that they likely breach the Council of Europe's Convention on Human Rights, to which Britain is a signatory. The Council of Europe is not part of the European Union. In response, the British government has introduced new legislation which would override European court decisions. The bill is currently being debated in Parliament. And at a meeting of the Council of Europe this week, Prime Minister Sunak said he would try to persuade European partners to reform the court itself.
We want to make sure that the European Court is always conducting itself in a way which is fair, which is effective, which is transparent.
Some analysts say Europe is not in the mood to negotiate with Britain after the country's exit from the EU.
I'm not necessarily sure that they will go the extra mile to go and enter into reform of yet another sort of European institution to please Mr. Sunak and his hardline government when it comes to migration.
Some members of Sunak's Conservative Party want Britain to quit the Council of Europe and its Convention on Human Rights. The last country to leave the organisation was Russia, expelled last year after its invasion of Ukraine.
Faced with the threats of rights, you give us what we want, so we just leave the European Convention of Human Rights and the Council of Europe, the answer could very well be, well, let's go, go ahead and be a pariah state, just like Russia is. I think it would be a mistake for Britain to do that at the moment, especially, as I say, given that we have a war next door.
Just over a quarter of the migrants arriving on small boats in 2022 were Albanian. Britain has deported over 1,000 back to their home country. The Albanian Prime Minister said last month that Britain was having a nervous breakdown over migration.
Montana on Wednesday became the first U.S. state to ban TikTok, with the ban set to take effect next year as debate escalates over the impact and security of the popular video app.
It's the first of its kind. Montana Governor Greg Gianforte has signed a law banning Chinese social media platform TikTok in the state.
Today, Montana takes the most decisive action of any state to protect Montanans' private data and sensitive personal information from being harvested by the Chinese Communist Party.
The ban, which is set to take effect from the 1st of January 2024, will make it illegal for Apple and Google's app stores to allow TikTok to be downloaded in the state. However, there won't be any penalties for people found to be using the app. The furore around TikTok ratcheted up in November when security concerns were raised over the Chinese government's partial ownership of another company belonging to TikTok's parent company, ByteDance. The Chinese tech firm has tried to play down the connection to the Communist Party, insisting the holding has no bearing on ByteDance's global operations outside of China, including TikTok. But several international governments weren't convinced, banning the app on federal devices. Other concerns have been raised over the impact the app has on young people's mental health and the information the social media platform collects and shares. Around half of America's 330 million people use TikTok, with the social media platform saying the new legislation infringes on the First Amendment rights of the people of Montana. The law is almost certain to face legal challenges, which could result in the ban being struck down before it ever comes into effect, but it could serve as a roadmap for a ban at a national level.
Ivory Coast is the world's largest producer of cocoa. Every year, about 2.2 million tons are produced, but only around 35 to 40% is processed in the country, and the rest is exported. Some entrepreneurs are trying to improve those numbers.
For Vivian Kwame, it was love at first sight. Cacao beans are native to her country, Ivory Coast, the world's top producer.
My first encounter with cacao, if my memory serves me right, was when I was 16 or 17. I went to a plantation and I was just amazed by this tree. It looks like it's carrying babies on its back because of the way the pods hang on the trunk.
For Vivian, it had to be bean to bar, meaning she wanted to see the process through until the final product. She gets her cacao right at the source, from a plantation around 300 kilometers from Abidjan.
My goal is to add value to chocolate that's made in Ivory Coast, to give it some nobility. I want to show the world that we can make good chocolate with our quality beans. As I like to say, there can't be any chocolate without cacao.
From the lapels on her uniform to her packaging, Chocovi is a celebration of Ivorian culture and heritage.
This box with our national colours is wonderfully presented. I love it.
The country is the world's top producer of cacao beans. But more than half of production is exported and processed elsewhere, meaning that local producers miss out on the added value.
26 minutes after 7, sibukela lapho ngaphandle. Let's take a break. Nasibuya we sit down with Fabrice Musonero, our sports journalist.
WHO has been advising countries to use antibiotics rationally for decades now. Why is that? What is at risk? And how can we preserve antibiotics for our future generations? What can governments do? And what can you do? Hello and welcome to Science in 5. I'm Vismita Gupta-Smith. We are talking to Dr. Hanan Balkhi today. Welcome, Hanan. Let's start with what is at risk? Why has WHO been advising countries and people to use antibiotics rationally?
Good afternoon, Vismita. It's great to be back with you on Science in 5. I think if we just go back in history a little bit, in 1928, penicillin was discovered, which is the first antibiotic. So we're talking over 8 decades now of the first antibiotic. The problem is that these antibiotics were used to kill bacteria that cause disease to humans. However, these bacteria are smart enough that they find ways to escape the effect of the antibiotics because they want to survive. Now, so that's one part of the puzzle. The second part of the puzzle is that the antibiotics are critical for human health and also for animal health. So the modern medicine that we have the privilege of experience today cannot continue without effective antibiotics.
So Hanan, you're actually describing an apocalyptic scenario almost where people may not have the protection of antibiotics even in common injuries if we don't preserve their efficacy. Talk to us about the top 3 things that each of us can do to help that.
So I think the first thing that people can do is try to take antibiotics only when prescribed by your physician or your healthcare provider. That's the first thing. The second thing is complete the antibiotic course based on the instructions given by the clinician. And the third thing is make sure that you're not sharing your antibiotic with family or friends because it really needs to be given based on guidance, based on the specific signs and symptoms that each individual is experiencing. Certain viral infections, they really do not require antibiotics. When you do not complete your course of antibiotics, knowing that we have a bacteria that live on our skin, live in our gastrointestinal system, so exposing these bacteria to inefficient doses or incomplete doses of antibiotics only teases the bacteria in a way, and it allows it to develop mechanisms to become irresponsive to these antibiotics. So the risk is that we will start creating superbugs. We will allow for opportunities for these bacteria to become even stronger. And then when the time comes where we really need to treat them, we won't have the effective antibiotics to do so. Now, on giving antibiotics and sharing it with other people, you're actually putting them at a risk of giving them perhaps the wrong medication and also giving them the inaccurate guidance on how to use these antibiotics.
So Hanan, talk to us about what governments and organizations can do to preserve antibiotics for the future.
Now, this is also a very critical question because obviously people cannot solve this problem alone. And I think that's where the WHO has given a lot of attention to antimicrobial resistance. And we're really working hand in hand with 3 other critical organizations. and many others as well, but those are the organizations for animal health, environmental health, and agriculture. And we work together to try to identify what are the best hygiene methods that need to be put in place so that, first of all, animals and humans as well are not exposed to infection, so that there is less need for using antibiotics. And this is not an easy task, but we're doing our best to move forward on that. What we're hoping also, when we work with governments, we have put in place with the member states certain national action plans so that they can have the right bits and pieces that need to be done in the healthcare system, in the agriculture system, in the environment, to make sure that the hygiene and the cleanliness of the environments where we eat and live and where the animals are raised and where we eat our food is actually clean. And we minimize to the maximum the need to use antibiotics. So that's one critical thing. One other critical thing is making sure that people stay as healthy as possible. A good example of that is making sure that people take their needed vaccinations, and that also reduces the load of infections that will require antibiotics in general.
Thank you, Hanan. That was Science in 5 today. Until next time then, stay safe, stay healthy, and stick with science.
All right, 34 minutes after 7. Welcome back. Thank you for staying with us. Fabrice Msonera is here in the studio to talk about sports. Very good morning, Fabrice. How are you?
It's a very good morning, Sfiso, and I think if you look at the weather outside there, you would tell yourself, you know what, I don't want anything to do with sporting activities, but tell you what, it's happening, and it's going on as well.
That's rather too chilly for me, Fabrice. I'm not even going to lie. I enjoy my sports indoors, so I'll be in the house when it's this cold outside. Fabrice, let's talk about the UEFA finalists. Very excited personally, for Joseph Pep Guardiola, one of the most decorated coaches in the history of football. He's only 52 years old, won the UEFA twice with Barcelona, has a chance after a 12-year wait now with Manchester City. After dismantling Real Madrid, they're in the finals. They will play against Inter Milan, that also qualified easily against AC Milan. They will be playing on June 10th, 9 p.m. Final. Let's talk about the finalists.
I think, thank you for that short, detailed analysis about Pep and what he's done. Yeah. I think for me, I don't know how should I emphasize this, is that Pep has changed the English football. And then from that level of changing the English football, he's gone now to the level of now he's now starting to dominate European football. Yeah. I'll give you an example. We all grew up knowing that in English football, when you have a destroyer, it shouldn't be someone who's technical. It should be someone who's tough, who's strong. But what he has done now, he has showed you that, you know what, any player can play any position. These are some of the things he's done, he's changed. Yeah. If you look at previously, all the players he's done. So for me, for them reaching the finals, I'm not shocked. I'm not surprised. I think I told everyone that I'm looking at how they progressed from the beginning of the year, after the World Cup, after knocking out your PSG and other teams. And you look at how they moved against the likes of Bayern and everything. So that's what they say. If you beat the best, then why not the best? I mean,
I'm with you. Let's not talk about the players he's released and they're going to Arsenal. But if Pep decides to say, you can go, I can do it without you, then there should be something wrong. And then if you look at how they're performing, Grealish is on top of his form. This guy is on the market, is a target for many teams. You can talk about PSG and everything. So for me, the cohesion of the team is together. So going to the final against this Inter Milan side, which I think also didn't get here by surprise. They have a history, they have their team to watch. I love this man. I think I love this guy. I've loved this guy since he landed in Italy, Lautaro Martinez. I think he deserves to play maybe at some point in England. He can play your number 9, he can play as a number 10, he can play as a number 8, he can play as a winger. I think these are the two men to watch in that final. Just a quick one. There's something people maybe would want to know is that there's a player, actually I was just going through my research and realized that there's a player by the name of Alvarez, Manchester City player. He's the only player, if he wins the Champions League with Manchester City, he's the only player to win everything you can ever play for in your life as a player before the age of 25.
Wow.
He won the American South American Cup. He's from winning the World Cup with Argentina. Chances are he will win the FA Cup. And chances are he will win also the Champions League and the Premier League.
But what about the Carabao Cup? Has City won it yet?
I hasn't seen it, but last year, remember last year when he had come in already, he had already had a hand on the Carabao Cup. So so you look at also those things, and you look at also this team. For me, this is a deserving final. It is a deserving final because both teams have worked. Italy has got strong sides. It's a very strong match to watch.
Yeah. Certainly, but there was that conversation that the City versus Madrid game was going to be the final before the final. But I suppose after that masterclass performance by City against Madrid, it was just pure dominance for Fabrice. I remember I was watching with my sister. She said in 20 minutes of the game, Real Madrid had only crossed the half once to their side. Which was, was shocking to me.
You know what Pep did in this game? I think I was watching his press conference yesterday. Is that coming to this game, their key players will expect that they'll be on top of their game. Obviously, you expect Haaland, you expect Kevin De Bruyne, maybe you expect, let's go for Rodrigo or anyone. But I think someone who really who was driving everything in that game. Not to say Kevin De Bruyne wasn't playing. A person who was driving that game was Ilkay Gundogan. I think Gundogan was key, and it also confuses it to say, was he a number 8, was he a number 10, was he number... But, it's a sort of a different story. And I think everyone was saying, Vinicius is going to be on top of his game. I think Kyle Walker, Kyle Walker was on top of his game. And then the commentator was saying, how can you handle a guy who's 10 years younger than you, because Vinicius is 22, Kyle Walker is 32. So how can you handle the guy he handled him.
Fabrice, before we move on to the Europa finals, I just want to disagree with you briefly on the players to watch. I mean, I cannot argue Kevin De Bruyne's 51 goals run this season. That has been marvelous.
In that game,
Erling Haaland's 51 goals has been beautiful this season.
Yeah, he's been beautiful.
Kevin De Bruyne is the player to watch going into the final for Manchester City.
Yeah, he's very key.
Are we agreeing on that?
We agree on that.
Based on?
Based on the assists, based on currently, I think, with Modric
28 assists this season?
Yeah, with Modric out of the Champions League currently, I think even not only in England, currently, he's the best midfielder.
And the most important thing, he always rises in the big occasion. 11 of his 14 Champions League goals for City has been on knockout stages. Let's go on to...
And you look at his career with Belgium, it hasn't been that fortunate, so he'll want to win this Champions League.
Certainly.
Haaland also first season with Manchester City, amount of goals he's scored. And I think that's the solution they were missing the couple of seasons, because whenever they were reaching semi-finals or finals, they were playing the first number 9, because you find most cases Gabriel Jesus maybe is injured, so they play with a first number 9. But now they've got a guy who is a machine. He's not an injury prone. I think since the season started, he's got only 1 injury, and I think it was only for missing 2 games, and he was back in the game. That's what you want from your striker. Also, before you get a striker, you need to see his, in terms of fitness, in terms of also health-wise, is he a prone injury type of striker? So I think he's
going to be a beautiful match to watch, Fabrice, based on all the things that you say.
But Inter Milan, Lukaku, yes, hasn't been really on top of his game, but he's that striker. He can change the game at any time.
City's winning that game, Fabrice. Europa League.
Chances are.
Let's talk about Sevilla versus Roma. It's going to be a beautiful game.
No, actually, I was actually watching the game. I was like, 2-2 Juventus. It's the second leg. If they get into penalties or extra time, I know Sevilla, I think, can really get to suffer. But I've come to understand one thing: this trophy is theirs. Scoring, during the dying moments, the extra time, it was just a shock. I think this team, they have been in more finals than any time since 2000, since the tournament, changed the name in 2000. So they have been in more finals than any other team. But Roma, what I like about Roma, with Mourinho being at the final, and I think the excitement I saw after that one goal, because they won 1-0 in the first leg on home soil. So yesterday's a return match was a 0-0 against Bayern Leverkusen. But his excitement was saying, I like on what Xabi Alonso, the former Liverpool and Real Madrid and Spain, who now coaches, Bayern Leverkusen, what he has done with the club. It was difficult for them to beat them, but this final. What I like about this final, there's one project. Sevilla, this is their trophy. It's known. They are winning. They have won it. But with Mourinho at the final, wanting Roma to win a trophy, it's going to be a tricky one.
Yes, actually,
I fancy Roma, taking it home.
Yeah, but again, like you're saying, it is Sevilla's cup. I mean, winning it on six occasions since 2005 and 2006. They will presumably be the favourites going into this game.
And in the absence of their former coach, Unai Emery, who used to help them, people would think maybe it's the coach who was the serial winner, but I think it's the history of the club. But for me, I think you look at now, one thing I want to highlight, we've got two teams from Italy in the final of the European Cups. So it tells you something. They have improved. You've got Roma, you've got Inter Milan, both one in Champions League, the other one in Europa League. It tells you something about Italian clubs that they have actually improved on how they perform European-wise.
Yeah. Let's talk about the Europa Conference League now. Final as well. What are your predictions?
When you look at West Ham, I mean, they're not doing well in terms of the Premier League. But it tells you one thing in terms of how English football is, because if you're not doing well on homes, I mean in terms of domestic league, but when you compete with some of the clubs European-wise, then it tells you something. I'm fencing them, and I think they might change rules because let's say for instance they win this competition. Once you win the European Conference League as a champion, you automatically qualify for the Europa League. So if West Ham wins this trophy, in as much as they are not in the top 7 or 8 of the log, because remember, a European League, it's only number 5, 6, 7 that plays in that competition. So automatically, by virtue of being the champions, they will play the Europa League next season. So how fantastic that could be for the West Ham side. In as much as now the information that they could lose 4 of their players, including Declan Rice, who's on the market list for the likes of Manchester United, Arsenal, and also Chelsea. So it's going to be a good one. It's going to be in Prague, final. I'm fencing West Ham to win it.
You're fencing West Ham to win it? There you had it. You have it from Fabrice. Fiorentina will take on West Ham in the 2022-2023 UEFA Europa Conference League final at the Prague's, am I correct? Prague's Eden Arena on 7 June 2023. You already chosen your favorites. Let's move on to the DStv Premiership. I want us to look at the fixtures real quick. I know the graphic will go on the screens real quick. Which games should we look forward to this weekend?
First of all, I want to congratulate Mamelodi Sundowns. Officially, they got a hand on that trophy and being able to do it for the 6th time. And I think since the tournament changed the name from ABSA Premiership to DStv Premiership, no one else has won it. They have won it since then. I mean, it's at this point in time, it's all about let's avoid relegation, let's finish in the top 8 for the MTN 8, and also let's maintain CAF competitions-wise. So for those teams, it's all about that competition. But you have to go down there at the bottom of the screen. That's a beautiful fixture.
Yeah.
The Durban, the KZN Derby, we've got Richards Bay and Royal M. By the way, we've got a player who is on the market list for this club, Richards Bay. Green Mamba captain, Korisum Kone, for the captain. He's wanted by this club. Who knows, next season we could have
Would you advise him to sign?
I would for exposure. I mean, the team is in the Premier League. In the Premier League, it's a good side, marketable. It's a good city.
Right.
Yeah, he could compete, and we need players in the ABSA Premiership. I mean, in the DStv Premiership, beg your pardon. So it's going to be a beautiful game. It's a KZN derby, and then you go Chiefs and then Cape Town City. Chiefs, they're at home at FNB Stadium. Inconsistency once again being my worry about Chiefs, but let's just give them this one. It could end up in a draw. Stellenbosch, TS Galaxy, also another game that could be exciting for everyone. Amazulu hosting Orlando Pirates at Moses Mabhida Stadium. Amazulu, a tricky side. They don't have really a good record against Amazulu Pirates. So coming to this game, they want to revisit their records. But Swallows against Marume Gallants. Marume Gallants, remember, they have a coach who used to coach here at Mbabane Highlanders. So and we've seen how they're competing at CAF competition. So for me, Swallows, they're trying to also to up their game and maintain the top 8. So coming to this table, we already have the champion, but I maintain my top 3. I think if anything is to go by, Pirates will maintain in the top 4. The fight has to be between SuperSport United and Chiefs. Chiefs are likely not to make it. If you look at the difference between the two sides in terms of points and the games are remaining. So top 8, yes, both teams are guaranteed the position, and I think we need really to see Swallows also not dropping from that top 8, because now they are 9th. They need to be in the top 8 because it's one of the clubs that is followed in South Africa after the likes of Chiefs and Pirates and Amazulu. I think Swallows, Morocco Swallows is out there as one of the followed clubs. Look at Richards Bay, a team like I highlighted that once, Korisum Kone, according to reports that we've been receiving.
Right.
So it's also another position for them. They are 13th, if I'm not mistaken. Yes. So it's really quite interesting at this point in time. Chippa United, let's hope they don't get relegated, but things are not looking good for them. But what a season it's been so far. And once again, congratulations to the champions. The way, trending information of some of the international stars, DJ Khaled holding Mamelodi Sundowns T-shirt.
Second time now, he did it last year. So
it also goes. It's a powerful marketing strategy, because you look at the former. Apparently, they tell us that he's not still in charge of the club, Motse Patrice. But these are things you have to understand. The image is there. You have to tell yourself that in as much as he's no more involved, but there's something he puts in. So it goes also with the marketing strategy. So for them to attract someone who's that far, it's quite huge.
Yeah, they're quite big, and that was a great marketing strategy by Mamelodi Sundowns, doing it 2 years in a row, playing at a high level. Congratulations to them, like you said. Fabrice, let's talk about the English Premier League. Watching Newcastle thrash Brighton yesterday 4-1 at St. James Park. The opening goal for me was tricky. It's just, also the own goal by Dennis Undav. I hate seeing own goals and seeing the opposing team celebrating like it's a goal that they put behind the net themselves is never a good thing personally for me. But the overall score 4-1, was it 4-1 for
Yeah,
4-1
4-1
was a great score, great display of football by Newcastle. Let's talk about this game, because they need one more win to secure UEFA Champions League spot.
And they will get that win. You can't tell me in 2 games remaining for them they won't. They will get that win. I'm worried for Manchester United, because Liverpool is behind them. Because if you look at the fixture, just highlighting, Manchester United still have to play Chelsea. They still have to play Bournemouth. And then Liverpool has Aston Villa and Southampton. Southampton is already relegated.
Yeah.
It worries me, because, like I highlighted, Man United against Bournemouth, and then they have Chelsea. So these are some of the games, then you put you in a position to say, can they really do it? But for me, before I got into the fixture, one of the things that I've noted about Newcastle United, when they get the support they want, and this is a testament to say, when you invest financially, the team will perform. It doesn't matter what coach they have. Eddie Howe is not your top manager. But for him to compete at this level, it tells you that once you have the support, I mean, players have been highlighting that one of the toughest places to go in English football, you talk about, Anfield Road, the Liverpool Stadium. The second toughest place to go, it's St. James Park. That's Newcastle United Stadium. Then third place, you have to talk about the likes of Sheffield United and maybe Old Trafford, and then you have got Nottingham Forest. So coming to this weekend fixture, you've got Spurs, Brentford. Nothing much you can highlight it. But that's a tricky fixture for Manchester United. They're not in a good position these days. There's a bit of imbalance in terms of their performance. If I was to bet, I would say, you know what, I'm going for both teams to score a draw. And then maybe Fulham, Crystal Palace. It's a mini London derby because both teams are from South Coast in London. There's one bridge that separates them, so that's why the reason why they call Chelsea Stadium Stamford Bridge. There's a bridge that separates Fulham and Crystal Palace, so it's a mini derby in London. Then you got Liverpool against Aston Villa. I think Liverpool, if they come out of this fixture, then they are sure that they can make it in the top 4. But at home, on home soil, I know that a crazy environment of the Anfield Road supporters. Then Wolves against Everton. Everton are in a really tricky position. I don't want them to relegate it like I highlighted before, but I'm settling for probably a draw for both sides. The Nottingham Forest for Arsenal. Nothing really much to play for in terms of hopes for Arsenal. There are comments now to say once you have Jesus in your team, you can't get defeated. Who knows? They can get these 3 points, and hardly, I don't want to believe that. It will be the first time a team like Manchester City has to lose their remaining games, and for Arsenal to win their only game, remaining 2 games, and be the champions. So it's a tricky one. Arsenal is away against Nottingham Forest, a tricky side. For the past 2 years, they knocked them out of the FA Cup. But going out there, I'm fencing them. Arsenal, maybe they could get 3 points. But I was just reading, one highlight that really caught my attention. In the history of football, European football, Arsenal is the only team that was on top of the league for 248 days and never went on to win the league.
I don't know if that's an achievement or
it's not. It's a
disgrace.
It's a disgrace because the year has got 365 days. So you've spent almost 85% of the year on top of the league, and you failed. The only team that spent more days like that was Newcastle, 211 days. That was 1998 season, and then Manchester United went on to win it. So we're talking about a team that failed to win after 248 days.
A team that managed to be on the top for a very long time, but then failed to win. You can look at it on either.
Do you know a baby that was born 248 days now, how big the baby is now? That's a long time.
But Fabrice, I want to go back to the point you made about Newcastle. Newcastle is a great club in terms of, the AGM, what they do in terms of managing that club. I remember it was 22 August 2022 when they announced that they were signing Isak from Real Sociedad. And what a player he has been, what a season he has had with Newcastle. I believe if teams really invest in signing players that are really good and knowing how to just discern and see the potential.
I haven't read this anyway because I don't want maybe Newcastle supporters or anyone who loves the English Premiership to quote me wrong. I haven't really read it somewhere, but there are 4 players Liverpool is about to release. That is Roberto Firmino, that is Naby Keita, James Milner. Yes, he's going to Brighton. Information says he's going to Brighton, and then you've got Oxlade-Chamberlain.
Right.
If Newcastle can get 3 of these players, I think Newcastle will go for these players because they don't need really at this point in time, because it's all about now maintaining being the top 4. This is when they want to maintain being that top 4. And then maybe win one knockout tournament. Could be Carling Cup, Carabao Cup, or FA Cup. The next season, that's when you can attract those players. That's when you can get your Modric at the age of 39 and tell Modric, you know what, you've got nothing much to play for in terms of Real Madrid. You are 39. Come and make something, make a living at Newcastle United. Then once you've got your Modric, then you go probably you go to Spain. Busquets, we hear now he's about to leave FC Barcelona. I'm not saying I read this somewhere, but these are how clubs operate. Because if you remember Manchester City, when they just changed the environment, that's how they started. You go to Barcelona, you get your Busquets. So then you know that these players are about to finish their career, but they will bring stability and experience. Look at the teams that are about to drop. Southampton are already relegated. It's a tricky one. I don't want these 2 teams to go down. I don't want Leeds United or Everton. if it was up to me, Leeds United will change position with Nottingham Forest. I would really want Leeds United. I think Leeds United it's the cream of the English Premiership. It's one of those clubs that just entertain you whenever they are playing. So for me, let's see Southampton going. Leicester City, they've got problems since the owner, that child from Thailand, passed away. Things haven't been on their side.
Right. But it's over. We can congratulate Manchester City just like we congratulated Sundowns.
No, it's the English football. We can't really congratulate them yet. I think if Arsenal
I don't want you to sit there and be like, Master, are you still hopeful that Arsenal might just pull it up?
No, I'm not saying I'm hopeful, but if Arsenal drop points this weekend, then me and you on Monday or Friday next week, we can congratulate City.
Well, I'm congratulating City. I've been congratulating City, just like I congratulated City against Madrid, and a lot of people said I should stick
really
to Barca.
Congratulate
but
them.
That's
yes, the 95% they have won the league.
Okay, cool.
But it's confirmed.
Fabrice, thank you so much for joining us.
Yeah, thank you very much. What a weekend it's going to be, and I can't wait. I know local football is over in terms of what we watch, in terms of our M10 Premier League, but our eyes will be on the screens and everywhere, ensuring that we watch the international football.
Then we'll come back next week Monday with Linda Master-Dlamini, who is Fabrice's best friend, who always disagrees with him, by the way, to discuss all those results on Monday. Let's go for a quick break. Nasibuya Lungelele, we wrap up the show. Yes, that's what I believe it is Amite Lungalele Lomsala Pavelangwane. We just might see a broadcast of that, so do stay tuned. Ubukele unsakatwa from Eswatini TV. Kubona all the developments la tawuba khona kusabuka yona iAmite lomuhla.
All right, Skunjala, thanks so much for joining us today. Hope you have a lovely weekend. We'll see you on Monday.
Be warm.